Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to breakfast in the class. Birshut Avi Mori, Birshut Rabbanim. We want to take some time to learn something together today, Be'ezrat Hashem. Today's breakfast in the class has been sponsored by Gail and Sonny Haddad, Lilu Nishmat Hiram Haddad, Hayim Ben Sofia, also Lilu Nishmat Ruth Orfali Bat Adela, and by Sarah and Shai Mahani in celebration of their son Herschel Mahani, the Brit Milah that we had this past week. The pasuk begins our Parsha and says, Reeh anochi noten lifnechem hayom beracha uklala. I want you to see, I'm putting in front of you today, beracha, a blessing, uklala, and a curse. And this idea that a human being could have in front of him a blessing and a curse, and the Torah and Hashem has to tell him to choose the blessing or to choose the life, is something which is really puzzling. You know, as an example, if someone sits on your table and they put in front of you 2 cups, one cup has in it a delicious coffee, an iced coffee with creamer, with big blocks of ice in it. It looks like a delicious drink. And in the other one there's dishwashing soap. Which one are you going to choose? Do I have to convince you not to drink the soap? What's going to happen to you if you drink soap? Probably nothing. You'll get a little stomach ache. How about if one of them says coffee on it, iced coffee from Rook? The other one says the big skull and the crossbones. Poison. I have to tell you, please don't drink this one. The truth is, in the country we live in America, yes, because otherwise you'll drink the poison and then sue me. Like that crazy court case with McDonald's, that they forced everyone to write on hot coffee, caution, hot, even though you ordered a hot coffee. Because a woman took a hot coffee, she put it between her legs, she drove off, she got burned, and then she sued only in a country like this. Only in a country like this, where you have to take a bag of peanuts, and on the front of the bag of peanuts, what does it say? May contain nuts. If it didn't contain nuts, what would you do? You would sue them because it didn't give you what you promised them. Now that it does contain nuts, the guy has to, unbelievable. But my friends, the nature of it is that everyone would understand that you don't need to be encouraged not to drink soap, not to drink poison, right? So why does the Torah tell you, also in other places, why does the Torah need to tell you that? Why does God need to command you, instruct you to choose life and to choose good? Surely people will only choose good for themselves. My friends, I want to share with you that perhaps a first answer can be understood with a mashal. I don't know if anyone here ever won the lottery. And I used to say that as a joke, but now I say it legit, because there was a huge lottery ticket that was sold in Food Town in Long Branch. I think the win was like over $1 billion. And nobody knows who it is. So some Aige in the community just put that money in his pocket, nobody knows. You don't want to get hit by all the fundraisers. You know, we heard about your big win, right? They were like, you advertise if you win the Rolex, not if you win $1 billion. So then you're faced with a question. Be'ezrat Hashem, all of us should win such a raffle. You're faced with a question. What's the question? Do you want it over 40 years? Or do you want lump sum? Lump sum, they give you much less, right? But you have it all up front now. The other way around, of course, you get all the fuller amount, but it's spread out over so long, and then there's inflation. So that's a question of taking beracha or diluted beracha. But do I need to tell you beracha, chaim v'tato v'tama v'tatara? The answer, my friends, is I think something really special. And that's really what I wanted to focus on with you today. And the answer is that it is not always evident when you are choosing life, and it is not always evident when you are choosing death. It's not always evident when you're choosing beracha, and it's not always evident when you're choosing kilala. In the mashal, one says coffee, and the other one says poison. But my friends, in marriage, sometimes matzah isha matzah tov. Sometimes motze ani et isha mar mimavet. Reeh anochi noten lifnechem hayom. You're looking at this woman, you don't know what you're marrying. And I don't mean just with a woman, it could be with a man as well. There you go, I got you in the back. Don't worry, I got you. Do you understand? This concept is something which tells us that part of the journey of being a Jewish person is living with your eyes open. I always thought to myself, maybe that's a deeper meaning of the pasuk. Gal enai ve'abita niflaot toratecha. Open up my eyes and I will see. What that means is that if you have to pray for open eyes, it means that most people are walking through their lives with their eyes closed. The Khatam Sofer made a diyuk exactly like this in the end of the tefillah. We say in the tefillah, Elohai Nitzor Shonim Ira, right? We say, Petach libi betoratecha. Says the Khatam Sofer. What does that tell you? That if you have to pray that your heart should be open, it means that most people's heart is closed. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you, Reeh, I want you to see, it's not only Borei Olam giving you advice, it's also Borei Olam, through the words of the Torah, blessing you with the possibility. Our rabbis tell us from the deeper sources, Al-Pi Kabbalah, that every word of the Torah not only is advice, but Histakel Be'oraita Ubara Alma. That when God wrote something in the Torah, it created its existence. So when we say, oh, Yehi Or, and we think God said, let there be light, and then He wrote it in the Torah, it's exactly the opposite. In the Torah there was Yehi Or, and because the Torah said there should be light, therefore there was light. What we're looking at over here is the mitziut that most of the world is running around with their eyes closed. My friends, today, or yesterday, the number 2 House Democrat declared that Israel was committing genocide. Number 2 House Democrat in the United States government, the biggest ally that Israel has amongst the nations of the world. The number 2 House Democrat. This is what it means that the world is running around with its eyes closed. We have a city called New York that's going to hand its keys to someone that's going to drive it right into the ground. And what's happening? The people are voting for him. The nature of the world is that people's eyes is closed. We have a country that lived for so long with so much debt that the country experienced what happened? A tanking in 2008. And what happened? Did we learn our lesson? To not spend all the money that we don't have on credit cards? We didn't learn our lesson. We know what we need to do to fix these things. We know we need to eat healthier. We know we need to exercise. We know we need to study Torah. We know we need to close the breaches in the wall and keep our community pure, whole, holy. We know what we need to do, but we choose to turn a blind eye. We know the problems in the community and we won't solve them. My friends, how long have we been working on a solution for tuition? And where are we? Now, have we taken a couple of steps? Yes. But for a community like ours, this should be solved already. Reeh anochi noten lifnechem hayom. Hashem says, listen, you guys, all of you, all Jews, anyone who's following the Torah, if you want to live with your eyes open, you can. And the minute your eyes are open, you actually identify Beracha and Klala as 2 different things. You identify all the good things of life as good. Kosher is good. Non-kosher, bad. Anything to do with non-kosher, bad. Could I be strict and lenient? Is there one opinion in all of the Torah that might allow me to? Yes. But you don't live the rest of your life that way on a shoestring. Everything else in your life is the best of the best. My friends, I want to share with you an example. There's a beautiful story of a man in Israel. I don't know if you're familiar with this. In Israel, they have raffles. And in these raffles, they raffle off the right to a cheap house. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Legally, the contractors have an obligation. You build new homes, they have to take a certain number of these houses and allow people to live in them for a small amount. You could win a whole apartment for 100,000 shekel that you're paying a small amount. So this guy, Abu Sky, Yareh Shamayim, Tamim, studies Torah. He wins one of these raffles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu basically grants him a house practically for free. He's so excited. He remembers that the pasuk says, that the Chachamim say, Mi hikdimani v'ashalem. I gave everything to you, Hashem says. Did anyone do a mitzvah to me first that I didn't do for them before they did the mitzvah? You have, as an example, a brit milah on your son. Did you do the mitzvah for God first? Or did he give you the gift first? He gave you the son first. Nachon? You have a house, you build a ma'akeh on the house. Did you have a house to build a ma'akeh on? God gave you the house first. You want to give pe'ah from your field. God gave you the field first. God says, who came before me that I owe? Everybody owes me. I don't owe anybody. Mi ikdimani v'ashalem. Anyway, the guy feels, Hashem gave me such a gift, so I have to pay Hashem back. What did he decide? He decided that he's going to go out and buy beautiful mezuzot to put on the house as a way of saying thank you to Hashem. Today upstairs, so beautiful, we have an entire team of people checking tefillin for people. Very special. Everyone's bringing a tefillin, lines of people, sofrim, beautiful.
Thanks to Rabbi Eskava.
Chazak Baruch to Rabbi Eskava. Ashrechem Yisrael also. The halakha is, you're not obligated to check your tefillin every year Elul. Right? When does a person have an obligation to check his tefillin? Years. Chamovadia actually rules that you don't even have to check for many years. You can rely on a cheskat kashrut, even on the tefillin you have from your bar mitzvah. However, Am Yisrael, we have a minhag to check every 7 years. Chamovadia says, the best people, a beautiful minhag is to check before Elul. So look at Am Yisrael trying to fix their tefillin in the best possible way. Okay, the guy says, I'm going to buy beautiful mezuzot. He goes to a guy gives him mezuzot. Ma baref, what does he know from mezuzot? He reads all the words to check. He makes sure that the words are not double. Like my father will tell you, you always have to be very careful with mezuzot. Abba, remember the story? There was someone that was having trouble in the house. I don't remember what the problem was. And you checked and you found the mezuzah on their bedroom was put in upside down. And you said, how could it be? I put these mezuzot up. And it turned out that they had painted. And the painters took down the mezuzot and they put them up again upside down.
3 houses away from the shul, the lady sees me in the street, says, Rabbi, you know, I would like you to come check my mezuzot. I said, nothing wrong with your mezuzot. He said, why do you say that? I said, because I put them. It was 2 years ago, and there's not can go bad. I said, but really, why ask me to come take a look at the mezuzot? He said, because Rabbi, I have terrible headache. I go to the doctor, he took him an eye, he couldn't find what the problem with me. I said, if this is the case, I'll come. I come to the house, I look, the first mezuzah, that's fine. Second mezuzah was upside down. I said, can't be I turned the mezuzot upside down. I said, maybe I made a mistake. I went to the 3rd room and 4th room, another one. In one house, 3 mezuzot is the wrong way being put. And I said, did you do any work in the house, painting? I said, yeah, we bought furniture last summer, and we're moving it in, and the movers knocked down the mezuzah and fell the floor, so they don't know how to put it, but they put it upside down. I said, now I fixed it, should be okay. She didn't call me back, which means took care of it, yeah. The problem being resolved.
So how many things like this fall out with the mezuzah? Famous story about a person who was eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. Unbelievable. They kept eating and eating. They checked the mezuzah, and instead of it saying ve'achalta ve'savata, her mezuzah said ve'achalta ve'achalta. Shtabach shemo. Who needs Ozempic? Just check your mezuzot. Either way, the famous idea over here is beautiful. So the guy says, I'm going to go buy beautiful mezuzot. He goes to get mezuzot, but he doesn't know about mezuzot. So he takes the mezuzot that he buys, and he brings it to the sofer, his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law says, they're good, but you could get better. They're not. So the guy, he's not a rich guy. He says, how much are the mezuzot? He tells him this is how much it is. He says, do you have better ones? The guy says, let me see what I have. I have better ones for a little bit more. He goes, brings back the mezuzot, and he brings it to his brother-in-law. What does his brother-in-law say? They're good, but you could get better. I wonder if when he married the guy's sister, his sister brought him home, and the brother-in-law said, he's good, But you can find better either way. So the point is, he goes from one guy to the next. Each time his brother-in-law tells him that there's better mezuzot on the market. Till one day, he finds a guy, sofer. The sofer has beautiful mezuzot. He says, how much are they? He said, they're very expensive. This sofer is a big yareh shamayim. He goes to the mikveh every 3 minutes. He writes, kavanot, mabaref. He only writes on Rosh Chodesh. I don't know what it is. Right? The guy is all the best kavanot, the most beautiful mezuzot. How much are they? 750 shekel a mezuzah. This is not a rich guy. But he promised Hashem he's going to get the most mehudar mezuzot that he could buy. How many does he need for the house? It turns out it was over 5,700 shekel in mezuzot that he needed. He says, I don't know where I'm going to get the money from, but Hashem, you gave me such a gift. I have to deliver on my word. I have to act the highest way. So he orders the mezuzot. He says, is it okay if I pay you in installments? The sofer says, no problem. The day comes, he's ready to move into his apartment. The sofer brings him all the mezuzot, the most beautiful mezuzot he saw in his whole life. He hands in the mezuzot, and the guy has his 750 shekel, the first mezuzah that he could pay for. The sofer says, here's the whole package. Here you go, Fadal. The whole package for free. He says, what for free? He says, don't worry, it's taken care of. He said, what do you mean it's taken care of? He said, this morning, I was driving here to your apartment. I saw a guy standing on the side of the road. I pulled over, asked him where he's going, to give him a ride. In Israel, they call it a tramp. Tramp is when you give someone a lift. Guy looked like a religious guy, tefillin. At hot day, I took him in the car. Turns out, he's an American businessman. He asks me what I do. I tell him I'm a sofer. And I write mezuzot, and I take my time, and they're the most beautiful mezuzot, because I like to do the mitzvah that people should do in the most mihudar way. The American businessman gets very excited. He says, I want a portion in the mitzvah. He says, you have any mezuzot on you? He says, yes. I'm going to give them to a guy, a kolel rabbi, who's putting them up in his house. He says, how much are the mezuzot you have with you? He says, I have for his whole house about $2,000, 5,700 shekel, $1,800. He says, here's $2,000, cover all his mezuzot, and the rest keep as a payment. Free. Here's a guy who gets a dirah for basically free. Turns to Hashem and says, if I saved on the house, I'm not going to scrimp on my thank you to you. I'm going to go the extra mile in the mezuzot. He sees mezuzot, kosher, but you could get better. He goes for the better. Again, goes for the better. Again, finally goes for the best. And instead of the best being the most expensive, the best were free. Sometimes we look at something you think, kilala, too expensive, but actually, it's a tremendous berakah. I'm going to end with this. There was a rabbi whose name was Rav Moshe Wolfson. He was a businessman and he traveled around the world. He had one business deal in Singapore. And he gets to Singapore to close the deal. It's a huge deal. The broker who put the deal together says, listen, the Asians, I know some of you have spent some time in Asian countries. You went to the factories. They have performances almost. When they finish a deal, there's a whole protocol for how they act, how they sign, how many times you bow, how do you do this, what do you wear, your shoes are off, etc., etc., etc. If you don't do it right, it's seen as a sign of disrespect. So the broker tells him, listen, everybody at this tekes, at this formal signing, everybody has to be the same. That's how they do it. So if you come in wearing a kippah and you look different, it's going to kibosh the whole deal. He says, come into the room, take off your kippah, do the deal, put it back on. Just for the ceremony, take off your kippah. Rabbi Moshe Wolfson says, I never took off my kippah before. I'm not going to take off my kippah now. I ain't going to take off my kippah in the future. If it costs me the deal, it costs me the deal. The guy can't believe it. He's been working 6 months to put the deal together. The rabbi won't take off his kippah. Anyway, he walks into the deal. Everybody's standing up there for the signing with the pictures. Comes Rav Moshe Wolfson with his kippah on his head. The owner of the company signing the deal walks right up to him and he shakes his hand. He says, you know, I'm the owner of the company, you're doing the deal with me. He says, yeah. He says, I see you wearing that on your head. He says, yes. He hands him a bottle of water and he says, here, make a beracha. The guy says, make a beracha? What is that? How do you know about a beracha? He says, the truth is, he says, I'm from Singapore, I'm Asian, but when I was young, my parents passed away, and our next door neighbors were a Jewish family, and they took pity on me, and they raised me in their home. Not to be Jewish, but they just took care of me out of the kindness of their heart. So I'm not Jewish, but I know all the laws. He says, I'm a very tough businessman. And normally, even at the final moment, and by the way, again, some of you will be able to attest to this, even if everything's done, if there's one thing about the deal I don't like, they're very tough businessmen. They'll walk away from the whole deal. He says, I looked at the deal this morning, and I saw a few different things I didn't like about the deal. I was going to walk into the signing today and tell you the deal is off. But then I saw you wearing a kippah. And I remembered the family that took care of me. And even though there's things I don't like about the deal, but I recognize that a people who could deal with me and take me in when it didn't benefit them at all, I could do a deal that will benefit one of theirs. The kippah did not stop the deal. The kippah made the deal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, and the Midrash quotes one of my favorite Midrashim in all of the Midrash. God says, Reeh natati lefanecha shnei derachim. I put in front of you two ways, blessing and curses. Berachaim tishma ledebarai. Blessing if you listen. Kiralaim lo tishma. And a curse if not. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the take home. Shim'u li. Listen to me, God says. She'en adam shomei ali umafsid. Listen to me, because no one listens to me and loses. Sometimes it's hard to see that, because it looks like if you listen to God, you're going to lose out. It looks like if you close on Shabbat, you're going to lose the lease, or they won't let you take the place. It looks like, but that's not the case. That's not how it is. She'en adam shomeya li umafsid. And God has to tell you that, because a lot of times it starts off looking like you made a deal and you broke your principles. But it doesn't end that way ever. She'en adam shomeya li umafsid. Hashem should bless us. We should be zocheh to have the emunah, to always follow what we know in our heart is the right thing, even if on the surface it looks like that's the difficult thing. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Bichel and Yemen HaKashem.